Hi, I'm Rob Kellogg, and today we're going to talk about safety glasses. How do we identify them? What's their purpose? And some of the minimal restrictions that we need to understand that they have with certain activities and some countermeasures to that. So first and foremost, we need to understand that we have to have safety glasses on at all times on our job site. And it's not because we're trying to protect you from what you're doing so much, but who's working around you and their activities. Make sure that we protect ourselves from them as well. That's our responsibility as technicians, is to be prepared for the environmental influences as you're doing your task generated influences. So both of those must be taken into consideration. So with that said, we need to understand what's a safety glass in the first place. And that doesn't mean that your prescription glasses are in any way considered safety. They don't have the proper plastic mechanisms that are generated in order to become safety. They may be safety in one industry, but not construction. And we need to identify how that works. So you can get these manufactured prescription-wise to be able to utilize them in the construction industry. They're going to be, one, costly, and two, they get ruined rather fast. So it's a very expensive mechanism to put in place. So what I recommend is to get something that's going to be an over protection to your prescription glasses, which are also a protective mechanism as well. So you need to see your optometrist about getting some options. Again, you have to look at your environment, what's going to work and what's going on. Now, I ride motorcycles, and when I ride, I always wear the maximum protection that I can to physically protect my eyes from flying debris. Now, I've got a shield in front of me, and I have all kinds of protection mechanisms in front of me, but that does not mean that I should not protect my eyeballs at all times. You see some guys riding out there with nothing on, and I think they're crazy, but you know, I like my eyeballs right where I had them, and that's, you know, on either side of my nose. So we want to make sure that even though we're in the environments we're working in, or the tasks that we're functioning, we want to take in consideration that environment as well. So without further ado, what's the proper mechanism that we need to protect ourselves from direct high velocity impact? Because that's pretty much what we're talking about in construction and in construction practices. So when we look at our mechanism, our eyeglasses, we want to be able to indicate, see an indicator on there that tells us what's actually happening here, and we're using the right one. So your first indicator that we're looking for is an ANSI, A-N-S-I, which the acronym stands for American National Standards Institute. They're the ones who are the testers. They're the ones who are the standard providers for the industry when it comes to personal protective equipment. Under the 87.1, that is the volume and subchapter within each one of those volumes, that tells us that safety glasses must meet these requirements according to these exposures. And when we're talking about construction, we're talking about high velocity stuff. We're using saws, we're using powder actuated tools, we're using in air nailers is a great example. So if you're doing some framing work, that's a huge issue that we need to address. We need to have eye protection on, even if we're not air nailing. If you're downrange of that nail, it still can get placed in your eyeball if you don't have it protected. So again, it's not what you're doing, it's what's going on around you as well that needs to be considered. Make sure that you have a plus sign after that 87.1. Plus sign is an indicator of high velocity protection, and that's what we need to have in the construction industry. Now, if all you see is 87.1, nothing else, you have a general industry mechanism for protection. That's for chipping and slagging and minor grinding. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about stuff that's going to impale itself into your eyeball at high velocities. It ain't going to work for us, and actually that could shatter and cause additional mechanisms to go in your eyes. So instead of going from a rifle shot, now you're going to a shotgun blast, and that's not any better. So by wearing something that's not going to be appropriate for your environment does not make you safe. Again, we need to look at all those details. So make sure in construction you have that plus sign. I don't care if you're not doing anything that's impactful. What's going on around you? We need to take that into consideration. Direct impact is what these are designed for. And a lot of guys that go out and put their safety glasses on and they're being safe, and then they start doing activities at or above their head, and that causes a dust accumulation or a kind of a falling hazard coming into their eyes, and it gets past their eyebrow, goes inside the glass lens, and bounces off the eyelash and the glass lens until somebody loses. Either gravity takes over and comes through, or worse yet, it bounces into the eye, the eyelashes grab it, and now you got something in your eye. I was wearing my safety glasses. Yeah, you were using the wrong mechanism when you did that, or when you saw somebody do that. We need to wear the appropriate gear for the appropriate activity and the appropriate exposure. If you're going to do overhead work, let's say from the chin up, and you have this potential debris or shavings or dust or whatever that's coming off of this mechanism, it can and usually does get into your eyeball, even past your safety glasses. You need to wear either a face shield or goggles, making sure you have protection above from debris that can fall in. This is why we wear a hard hat with the bill forward. Aha! That's part of your protection mechanism. But most of us wear our bills so far up, we've got this space in between, and anything that falls down usually does. Or we're looking up when we're doing this activity, and it falls straight on our forehead, bounces in, and now we got something on our eye. Please, guys, let's use the right safety glasses for the right operation. If you're going to be doing overhead work, chin and higher, make sure you've got your glasses or your face shield on, so that way it goes away from your face, away from your eyes, away from your mouth and nose, and it doesn't get in there. Because we all know, once it gets in there, it's a pain to get out, figuratively and literally. So be mindful of that. Now, how do I know I got an indicator on my glasses? Go over here to the glass indicator here. It's either on the side rim, it's on the outside of the actual glass itself, or it can even be right here at the rim, at the nose ridge. Any one of those three, you will see this indicator, and that will determine whether you have safety glasses on that are appropriate. Same thing for your face shields and your goggles. They will have those indicators on there as well. Now, if you're wearing goggles and they don't have a safety protection from direct impacts, you must wear your safety glasses underneath them. I know, pain in the rear, fogs up, gets in the way, pain in the rear, whatever you want to say. You got to do it in order to keep yourself safe. So how does this stuff not fog up? Here's a little trick for you. It's kind of difficult when you go from the outside when it's 20 degrees into the inside where it's 65 degrees in the construction project. You get an instant fog over. How do you prevent that? Well, there's a simple way. There's a thing called Rain-X, and they are specifically designed to go over plastic materials. Not the glass Rain-X, but look for the one that's plastic application. And you put that on the inside, you wipe it clean, make sure you air it out so there's no vapors coming off of it. You want to use that over a few minutes and make sure that you do the sniff test that you're not getting vapors off of there. And then go ahead and put them on. So you don't want vapors going into your eyes after you put them on. My recommendation is to apply that the day before, let it sit, let it evaporate, and then put them on the next day. That's your best bet. But if you got to go to work real quick, make sure you put it on the inside, wipe it off clean. Just wave it around for a couple of minutes, get that thing aired out, and then put it on your eyeballs. If you start to feel tearing or start to give you a problem, you didn't air out enough, continue on until it does. It doesn't take that long, and it's an irritation at worst. So we want to be careful with that chemical exposure. Once we've got that done, we're good to go for several weeks, literally several weeks. They're going to bead up inside, but they're not going to moisten or fog up on you, and that helps out a lot. Even in the summertime, same principle. So with that, there's another mechanism that you can use. It's kind of nasty, but it does work, and it's an old diver's trick, so it's temporary. It's probably only going to be for a couple hours, but if you give a little spit and rub it in with your fingers and then dry it off with a wet towel, that actually helps keeping fogging from happening. So make sure that you brush your teeth and you keep it clean afterwards. You're just wiping off the residual. So don't spit on it, call it good in the goop. That's not what we're talking about. Clean it off, wipe it off, get it clean. That film that you put on there from your saliva, like divers use, is a quick fix for a long-term problem. but you're going to have to get a long-term solution, and that's where Rain-X comes into play. So that's a recommendation. Make sure you're wearing it, and one of the reasons we're wearing it is either it fogs up on us or it's too small or too big. Make sure your stuff works and it fits. If it doesn't fit, you're not going to wear it, and that defeats the purpose of having it on your face in the first place. So if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to call us. We're here at Ultimate Group to give you a hand anytime we can. Remember, safety is not a mindset, it's a state of mind. See ya.